Wes Goldberg, cold open question of the day for you. Giannis Antetokounmpo gave this quote the other day that said, quote, "If we don't win a championship, I might get traded." Read the full quote. There's some context on it you can get into. Like, he was kind of right that his job is to, win a championship. That's like what the standard he holds himself to, what the league holds himself to, a guy of his caliber. But I ask you this, what would it take for Giannis to actually get traded if it weren't like him being like, "Hey, Milwaukee, like it's been a great run, but it's time to send me elsewhere." Like, I could not find a plausible reason that the Bucks would trade Giannis of their own volition.
No, not right now, right? Not when you're 30 years old. Maybe it gets to a point where he's 34, 35, 36, and they say, you know what? Like, we're just going to trade Tom Brady. We're just not bringing him back, and because we got to reset the whole thing, and we can't afford the roster anyway. But yeah, I mean, other than anything short of him demanding the trade, they're not trading him. This whole like fake humility thing, I get it from like the leader of the team, like, hey, I'm the same as all of you, except like nobody else got their brother signed to the Milwaukee Bucks for several seasons. Like you're not the same as everybody else in that roster. Everybody in that locker room knows it. The fake humility thing to me kind of goes too far in some cases, right? And I think fans love to hear that kind of stuff, but for me, as somebody who is as cynical as I am, I'm over it, man. Like, Giannis, come on. Usually he's awesome in these press conferences. He's been very good in the recent years, but this was like, I don't need this fake humility, man. You know that that's not true. Stop it.
Gotta tell you, I also today was the day that I learned that Thanasis Antetokounmpo was not on the Bucks roster. I just assumed he was back. Like I just assumed, and then I was looking at the roster.
I think he showed up to the facility and his key card didn't work, and he goes, "What happened?"
It's like, why'd my corporate access get denied? It's like, my guy, we didn't bring you back.
Can't log into my Outlook anymore.
My Outlook's not working. Why doesn't Teams load on my computer? I'm trying to request some PTO, and I got some podcast recordings to do, and I can't make
you got as much
today.
PTO as you want, buddy.
Yeah,
you got as much time off, and it's paid by your older brother or younger brother. I forget.
Younger, I think.
I think it's younger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Paid by your brother.
Yeah, it just was shocking that Thanasis
is not getting traded.
He's not getting traded by the Bucks unless he's like, "Hey, Bucks, trade me." Weird stuff from Giannis. All right, on today's show, we're going to talk about Isaiah Hartenstein's injury, what it means for the Thunder, and we're going to plant our flag on a team in the East and a team in the West. We'll explain what that means and go through the whole process of picking said teams on today's episode of the Just Basketball Show. What is up, everyone? Welcome into the Just Basketball Show for Friday, October 18th. I am Chris Manning. That is Wes Goldberg. If you haven't already, follow, rate, review on your podcast app platform of choice. Hit subscribe on the Just Basketball Fans YouTube channel and check us out on TikTok, Instagram, and X. Want to tell you about our friends at BetMGM as well, because support for today's episode comes from BetMGM. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code JustBasketball. You get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here is how that works. Step 1, download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android and sign up using code JustBasketball. Step 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. Step 3, you receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. Just make sure to use bonus code JustBasketball, all one word, when you sign up. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older to wager. Terms and conditions do apply. Wes, real quick, I want to hit something before we get into the Hartenstein news. Just give me a minute here to clear out. WNBA Finals Game 3 from Wednesday was why playoff basketball of any variety is the best. Liberty come from 15 down.
It's crazy.
You could like feel in that moment this team that was assembled with Brianna Stewart and with Josiah's Money and Sabrina Ionescu, one of the most heralded college players of recent times, and just John Cole Jones and Laney and this whole team assembled, and you could feel that they did the thing, they beat the Aces, they finally like beat their the team that beat them last year that has dominated the league in recent years. And it feels like they're going to then lose to the Lynx, and it's going to slip out of their hands. And then they come back from as many as 15 down, and Sabrina Ionescu not only hits this three from basically the logo to, like, cold-blooded, a shot I hate every time until, you hit, unless you hit it. Otherwise, I hate it. but it goes in. And then after the game, she has this really great quip about it was a great second team all WNBA shot because she did not get first team because Caitlin Clark did. Just really good stuff from Sabrina Ionescu. Really good gutsy performance from the Liberty. And if you have not watched those WNBA finals, you've been missing out on some great basketball. Frankly, basketball that is better than any NBA preseason basketball you might have been consuming.
Right, and that's why I'm watching preseason basketball for my job, and then on the other TV, I've got the WNBA game, and I actually at a couple of points had to turn the WNBA game off because I was so distracted from the Heat game that I was supposed to be covering. So, New York up 2-1, have no business being up 2-1, and yet they come back from that deficit, and you can also feel like New York surging, but also Minnesota slipping.
Yeah.
And you've kind of got those two things where Minnesota's like, oh my God, I can't believe this is going to happen to us. We got it this far, and now we're facing the 1 seed super team, and they're going to come back and beat us. And then 100% that's exactly what happened. Sabrina's my favorite WNBA player, has been for a long time. I'm old enough to remember when I used to cover Sabrina for the San Jose Mercury News when she was going to high school in Walnut Creek, where I lived. And so it was always just like Sabrina Ionescu just keep coming up, and you're like, who is this person? I just moved there from Florida, and I was just like, who is this Sabrina Ionescu person? And you start learning, right? Because she was the biggest star in sports, basically, in high school sports, and basically even college sports, because the Bay Area doesn't care about college sports, and they kind of suck for college sports. But she was the biggest thing going, because the Bay Area is also great for high school sports. Then she goes to Oregon, obviously, and then goes to the WNBA. So to watch her shoot that shot and make it from the logo like Steph Curry in the Olympic style was crazy. And you 100% knew it was going in, right? It was like one of those shots. And I thought, and the reporter even after was asking like, hey, did you know it was that far or whatever the question was? She's like, I actually had no idea. I take the shot all the time. This wasn't a Hail Mary for me. And I love that answer. It's like, no, come on, child's play. I got this one.
This is Sabrina Ionescu's moment. She is an absolute killer. I think we're going to get Game 5 in that series back in New York. I think the Liberty obviously should be favored to win this. At this point, up 2-1, having got the home court advantage back. But what a series. Tons of swings back and forth. Again, this is playoff basketball to me is just one of one. And you can look at all the numbers all year and be really analytical about it. But I do just love, Wes, when we get to the end of a season and there is just these tugs back and forth and these pulls and these switches and the drama and the momentum and everything that just, like, it's cliche, but it just devolves into this one specific thing. No matter, as long as these teams are actually good, it devolves into this one specific thing, and it never doesn't deliver. So very excited to see where that series ends up, but I think Sabrina Ionescu has got the Liberty on the right track there. Let's go to Isaiah Hartenstein. Former New York Knicks center, now Oklahoma City Thunder center. Isaiah Hartenstein has a fractured hand that he suffered in a preseason game against the Denver Nuggets. He's going to miss at least 5 to 6 weeks. Wes, my thought on this initially is pretty simple. I think long-term, this does not change my opinion of the Thunder. This does not make me any less optimistic in the big picture about what OKC could be this year. I still would think, based on what they were last year before even adding him, and considering they're still going to have Caruso in the fold now and whatnot, I still think this team's going to be awesome from the get-go. I don't have any reason to doubt that. What I don't like about it for them, when I feel they're losing here, is that opportunity to have the first month of the season be a build-up to get Isaiah Hartenstein acclimated and hit the ground running. Ultimately, you'd rather have this happen now than in February or later in the season. But I do think early in the season, for the teams that are playing the long game, that are chasing a title, this does matter in the sense that you are going to build that connectivity, figure out what works, what doesn't with him, get everyone acclimated together early in the season so you can hit the ground running later. This just delays what I think is probably inevitable, but this does hurt the Thunder in terms of them building up to something bigger down the road.
I don't know. I think it hurts people who bet on the Thunder to win the NBA Cup the most.
Losers, gamblers. Yeah, losers are the gamblers.
Like, if you bet on the Thunder to win the NBA Cup, that just took a shot. And maybe if you even took the over, like you and I did, on the Thunder, maybe that gets a little bit flimsier now. But fortunately for the Thunder, their first couple of months of the season here they have one of the easier schedules in the league in these first couple of months. So whatever that means, it means. But this to me is more of a bummer than it is a big deal. because I think everybody was excited to see Isaiah Hartenstein playing center alongside Chet Holmgren, all the looks that the Thunder can get to, all the different lineups that they can experiment with, and just seeing how dominant this team could be that basically had one weakness or maybe two weaknesses last year, right? In teams not guarding Josh Giddey and the fact that they couldn't rebound the ball at all. And by adding Isaiah Hartenstein and then obviously Alex Caruso, they solved those problems. But in terms of rim protection, I'm not that worried, right? They still have Chet Holmgren. He's still there. They've got big Jalen Williams available. He hasn't played in the preseason yet, but I don't think it's going to be a regular season issue. And another great way to counter a lack of rim protection, which again, the Thunder don't because they have Chet Holmgren. But if they were to worry about that, they still have one of the best perimeter defensive lineups, if not the best perimeter defensive lineup in the NBA between Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Aaron Wiggins, all the guys that they can roll out there. And so if they ever get a little worried about their rim protection, they could just not let anybody get to the rim. So it's more of, again, it's a bummer, and it's a longer injury than I think people anticipated. This is sort of like the opposite of the Paul George thing, where you're like, oh my God, and it's like, oh, it's not a big deal. So yeah, I'm disappointed, but I don't think this shakes my confidence in their championship viability at all. Yeah, to your point, in building up to something, instead of having 82 games to build up to sort of the Super Saiyan version of the Oklahoma City Thunder, they've got 60 games to do it, 65 games to do it, whatever it is. That's still going to be plenty of time.
Yeah, it's still plenty of time. It just I think delays like them hitting full throttle, and this could be me just overthinking this. I'm prone to overthink everything in my life, candidly. But I do wonder if, just like with how competitive the West is there I've been asking myself to just, my instinct is this is fine, it probably doesn't matter that much. But just in thinking through it and trying to play, kind of like challenge myself and my thoughts, I did wonder like 10% if the margins in the West this year are so competitive and thin, does like a little bit of lack of continuity built up the first 6 weeks, does that matter at all in the long run? Probably not, but especially considering how good I think that team will be. But it is just a thought that crossed my mind with this, and it is in his strong hand as well, which did worry me a little bit more than if this was his off hand. I'm less concerned, but he's a left-handed player, and this is a left-handed hand fracture.
It's a totally fair thought. Fortunately, Isaiah Hartenstein hasn't dealt with a ton of serious injuries, but you're right. I mean, a left-hand injury to a left-handed player cannot be ignored. All of that could make sense. And I think the other part of it, too, is, okay, well, you've already used a roster spot on Topic, who's not going to be playing this season. Now you've got Hartenstein out for 5, 6, 7 weeks, however long it is. So you're down to, 13 players on the roster now? One more injury, 2 more injuries, a rolled ankle here, and the guy's out for a week or two. And you start getting pretty close to like the 10 guys, 11 guys left. So the attrition is already starting for a team last year that basically dealt with 0 injury problems, right? You even had Chet Holmgren play 82 games last year. Is he going to play 82 games in a season for the rest of his career? I don't know. You know what I mean? So not like, considering he missed his whole real rookie season with an injury. So yes, for a team that was the beneficiary of some major injury luck last year, they're already dealing with 2 pretty decent injuries this year, and that's already very different. Also, in terms of the bummer front, not necessarily in terms of their long-term viability front, in terms of the bummer front, opening night for the Oklahoma City Thunder in Denver on TNT on Thursday night, and that was going to be a great game to see Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren doing the Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns thing against Jokic, and now we don't get to see that. And by the way, they're probably going to lose that game because Jokic kills Chet Holmgren.
Yeah, he is a monster, and there will be, I think, some overreaction takes coming out of that game would be my guess on any of the panels you might see. But
yeah, that's a great call, right? Like I think you and I took the Thunder on one of our overlocks. We kind of have them at probably getting the number 1 seed again in the Western Conference, and if they lose this game against Denver, it'll be like, they're starting the season 0-1. Denver coming out with the win. They look good. 5th starter, bench doesn't really matter, whatever. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna do our East planning, the flag team first. We're gonna negotiate that, but first, got to tell you about our friends at Homage. Homage is the ultra comfortable specialty apparel company with NBA and WNBA licenses that uses vintage inspired designs to pay homage to the greatest stories, traditions, and figures across sports, music, and popular culture. Use our link below, make your purchase, and support the Just Basketball Show. Homage right now as they always do, has these great starter collaborations. They have their NFL heavyweight satin and blackout heavyweight satin jackets that were recently released. Those are limited stocks. If you want yours in your team, go and get them right now. Use our link below and support the show. And if you're let's say a Liberty or Lynx fan, depending on what team wins the WNBA Finals, they are going to have an awesome drop to commemorate whoever wins a WNBA title. We've seen the sneak peek of the designs. They're great as always. You're going to check those out. And we may be doing a giveaway on our socials, so stay on the lookout for that giveaway here coming up soon. Wes, let's get into East planting the flag. I found the East, if I'm trying to pick out what team I wanted to nominate here and us kind of negotiate this, because last year, to pull this back, when Brendan Clean was doing the show, we just kind of decided off air and explained our pick. A little more fun, I think, for us to negotiate this and just kind of go in blind. I don't know where your head's at. You don't know where my head's at. I had two kind of conflicting thoughts here. Number one, I thought maybe should I suggest a team in that non-elite tier but really interesting tier in the East? So like, your Cleveland, your Indianas, like that realm. Or what I'm going to throw out there as a bit of a swerve, and I think to get a team a little lower down the totem pole and not just pick a team we know is going to be good, but a team that has some upside and that I'm intrigued by, maybe in a way that I'm skeptical of, but I'm still intrigued by. The team I want to throw out to first nominate is the Charlotte Hornets.
Well, can we establish a few rules here? Because I do think we need some guidelines. So I pitched this to you, and maybe this is the production meeting and the show at the same time. I thought, what if we only did teams with plus odds to make the playoffs? And I have the list if you want it. Okay. So we can't pick teams that are actually expected to make the playoffs necessarily. Okay. So here's my list of the teams that have plus odds to make the playoffs. The Hawks, Hornets, Raptors, Bulls, Pistons, Wizards, Lakers, Clippers, Spurs, Jazz, and Blazers. So I don't think any of those teams necessarily are surprising, except for maybe the Lakers that got plus money because of public money. But whatever.
We'll get to that. I have a West thing with that I want to bring up as a possible rule. But when we get to the West, I'll bring that up.
Okay. So is it just we can't pick the Lakers? Because I'm happy with that.
No, well, I'll save it. There's a certain player that I feel like it's just so obvious for us to pick them, but we can discuss it.
So if we limit the pool to those teams, and then I'm thinking about it in terms of which one of these teams do I think can have like the most successful season. Now, I don't know that success is necessarily about wins and losses, but it's like how did you and Brendan do it in the past? Was it like team that you want to watch, team that is interesting,
a team that we just thought was going to be like
more
good,
successful than people thought?
Yeah, a little bit of that, and it was just I think we liked Orlando and Sacramento as like upside teams that had something there, and they're just not glamorous as well, right? Like we didn't pick, to your point, like we didn't just pick the Lakers and the Celtics and pick the glamour teams that we were planting our flag on.
Let's put some stakes on this thing.
Yeah.
We got to pick one of these teams that we think has the best chance to make the playoffs. And then that way we have some real rooting interest. I want to be cheering for this team in March and April to make the playoffs. Okay. That's what I want to do.
All right.
Let's put some real emotional stakes on this.
Give me the East teams again, and we can knock these. We can go through these.
The Hawks, Hornets, Raptors, Bulls, Pistons, and Wizards.
My gut tells me we should go Toronto or Charlotte. I just don't really have a lot of interest in Atlanta. The Wizards and the Nets and the Pistons, I just don't think have real shots. The Bulls,
throw one out and we'll debate it. Nominate one of those. We'll kind of go through some nominations and debate it, and then we'll make a decision at the end.
I'm going to nominate Charlotte. I don't really know if I totally believe that. I don't think any of these teams necessarily have like the greatest chance, but if I'm thinking about young superstar in LaMelo, even if I'm skeptical and kind of unsure of him at what he is at his best, year two of Brandon Miller, I believe in a Mark Williams kind of resurgence. They have a new head coach who I think is going to design some really better stuff for them that Steve Clifford coaching LaMelo Ball just never quite felt right. Charles Lee coaching LaMelo Ball feels right from a what you're actually going to run perspective to me, from what we know about Charles Lee, who has not been a head coach before. I think this team is just due for, if LaMelo is healthy, to be better and more competitive, and there is like a somewhat possible soft underbelly in the East to like grab some wins from. Mm-hmm. And if you're saying LaMelo Ball and like a bunch of dudes who are pretty competent with some upside plays there, that's the one to me that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I think you make a good point in terms of like these teams probably aren't making the playoffs. Maybe the play in. Maybe that's how we measure it. Make the play in tournament even as like
Yeah,
the 9 or
top
10, or
top
maybe you
10.
just maybe go over their over under and we can actually
Yeah,
put some money on it.
yeah.
All right, let's just do that. Let's go over the over under. So, and they just got and they have to hit the over. So, whatever. I I made this joke with you before. I'll make it again though. I have two rules about the NBA. Never
Yeah.
trust the Clippers, never watch the Hornets after February. And I
Yeah.
cannot tell you how quickly I came off of that last rule
Uh-huh.
in this preseason. I'm really enjoying watching the Charlotte Hornets. Part of it is because I forgot what LaMelo Ball basketball is like. And I don't know if I was a Hornets fan, I would love watching LaMelo Ball because he still does some dumb LaMelo Ball things. But as just an NBA fan who's just in on interesting, LaMelo Ball is interesting. He'll do some things that make you scratch your head. He'll do some things that knock you out of your seat. And he'll often do them on back-to-back possessions. And so the roller coaster ride with LaMelo Ball is great. I think Brandon Miller is an absolute stud. I think that we should, instead of rewarding Rookie of the Year to somebody in this draft class, we should let Chet Holmgren and Brandon Miller fight it out because both of them got way overlooked because Victor Wembanyama ran away with the award. I think Brandon Miller is awesome. I think the coach is doing all the right things. I think they're going to put up a bunch of three-pointers. Still have not seen Mark Williams in preseason. They've been doing this with Nick Richards, and FYI, he's not good as a center. Mark Williams, I've still got my Mark Williams stock, right? I still got it. So I think there's enough young talent here where I'm pretty intrigued. So I'm enjoying watching the Hornets. I think it's a good nomination. I had it on my nomination list. Can I nominate another team?
Yes, please.
I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm nominating the Detroit Pistons.
Oh boy. Are you just really in on JB Bickerstaff's like uniform code and like practice? Did you see this? His dress code for practices and things? No chains. Discipline, basically just
No,
like
I mean, that screams to me like Pat Riley heat culturisms. So yes, I'm in on that. Like
Okay.
that's Dwayne Wade tells a great story about how when I think it was when Carmelo Anthony was at the Knicks, they came into town and Miami was wrapping up their practice and the Knicks were walking onto the practice court. And usually there's a good buffer of time between those two things happening. And as Carmelo was walking onto the court, he saw Dwayne Wade. Melo's wearing his do-rag, he's got his chains on, like whatever, and he goes to like dap up Dwayne Wade, and Dwayne Wade just walks right by him, doesn't even look him in the eyes, and he goes, "Yo, we're like best friends. What's going on?" And Dwayne Wade said, "We have rules here with the Miami Heat. We don't get to wear your do-rags. We're all dressed up, like shirts tucked into the shorts, and you don't talk to the other team if you see them." And Dwayne Wade abided by that rule. So if that's what JB Bickerstaff is doing, it worked for Pat Riley, so I have no problem with it.
it's not quite that intense. It's more of like you practice how you play, so no hoodies or jewelry at practice. It's like
All right, fair enough.
It's
Look,
giving
I'm
like
pro
boys
rules. I have
Catholic
no
school
problem with rules.
structure. Is
Okay.
what it's giving. But for NBA
what I like
teams?
mostly is the lineups that JB Bickerstaff is putting together. This is not a team with a ton of shooting, but he's doing as much with the limited assets in terms of shooting that he has, right? He's always going to put one of Tim Hardaway Jr. or Malik Beasley on the court with Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham. They're putting Fontecchio out there. They're going to get Tobias Harris back. He's obviously a floor spacer. And I think Jalen Duren's in for a really good year, especially if they've got a little bit more space on the court. Where Monty Williams, it just felt like he didn't even know the players on his roster sometimes. And I think he just picked 5 guys off the bench at random and threw them in games sometimes. Except the only one he knew was Jaden Ivey, and he knew he hated him. Yeah. And meanwhile, Jaden Ivey is soaring in this preseason. That dude is a completely different player. He was one of my favorite players going into that draft class. He was the most frustrating player under Monty Williams because it felt like him and the coach never jived, and it wasn't all Monty Williams' fault, even though probably 90% of it was, but like Jaden Ivey wasn't doing much within the constraints of what it was. But he looks awesome and has been the Pistons' best player in the preseason, and it's not even close. Cade Cunningham started a little bit slow. He found his rhythm towards the end of the the end of the preseason here. It's just preseason, but based on what I've seen, they've got the Thompson twin, who I love. His defense is awesome, good rebounder. There's just players that I like on that team, and the way Bickerstaff has them playing, I don't know that we're going to see a bigger difference in coaching last year from Monty Williams, who clearly did not want to be there and was disinterested in the job, to JB Bickerstaff, who is basically coaching right now for his head coaching career, right? He had a great record with Cleveland. It doesn't work out. They fire him. And if it doesn't work out with the Pistons, this is a situation, like he's not this established name. Like he might not be a coach again if it doesn't work out with the Pistons, right? There's no guarantee of that.
He'll be like an assistant until he's like 65, but no head
Right.
coaching opportunities again.
Right. And so this is a really big deal for him. So whatever uncommitment you got from Monty Williams or disinterest you got from last year, it's going to be the opposite. And that's why he's putting all these rules into place and all these things. And you could see it already. I can't believe I'm in on the Pistons, but I'm in on the Pistons, and I think their over-under was at 25.5, 26.5, 27.5, something in that range when we did our over-unders pod, and I think I took the under.
I'm checking right now to verify
we watched a couple more of their preseason games, and I'm like, I kind of love the over. I think they're going to win 30 games.
We both went under. The quote we used for that episode, Wes, was they don't have that guy who's going to drive wins, which is something you said. So maybe we've reversed.
I was lower on Cade, and I didn't see the whole Jaden Ivey renaissance coming, so I was wrong.
You and Dan Gilbert are just about revitalizing Detroit. That's the handshake going on here. Is what's happening. No, I think that's a good nomination. Yeah. Just to put a third team that we can pick from, let's just say Toronto. I don't really have a ton to add with them. I think Scotty Barnes is maybe the best player that we could talk about in any of these teams. They, there's a lot of young guys you could talk me into really developing nicely there, but. I'm more skeptical of them than I've seen some previews to be. So I feel like we're deciding between Charlotte and Detroit.
I could be talked into either one here.
I kind of want you made a better case for Detroit being more competent. Like I believe in what I believe. Let me put it this way. I think Detroit has the makings of like a more naturally competent team with some of the veterans, with Cade, with Ivy, with what Bickerstaff's going to do. And we kind of know him as a known quantity where we don't know Charles Lee, and LaMelo can be up and down. So I feel like there's a better or injured.
The biggest problem with me is that injury risk with LaMelo, and if he goes down, they're screwed.
Yeah.
Like Brandon Miller's awesome, he's not that guy yet.
No, he's year 2. It's hard to carry that burden in year 2 in a league that's as good as it is right now. So I think there's some real risk there.
Yeah. Are we choosing the Pistons?
I think we're choosing the Pistons.
Let's go.
I think we've picked the Detroit Pistons. I will say this. I think this is a massive Cade Cunningham year for how we understand him. I think this is the year where we kind of understand what Cade Cunningham's ceiling is, and that's going to be really fun to follow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of interesting storylines here, and just more players that I like to watch on the Pistons. Between Cade, Jaden Ivey, and Thompson, I keep using the last name because I keep forgetting which Thompson is which.
Yeah, look, I think everyone except for Pistons and Rockets fans probably do that. I do that.
Is it a SAR?
Yeah, I think so.
Look it up I feel like I probably should know this since my job is to cover. It's like, yeah, it's a SAR. I nailed that. Okay, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, I'm more confident in yourself.
Well, like even just like with you think about like veterans filling gaps, even if we're is it good or bad that they're there? It's like they have a bunch of veterans who are just like degrees to like they're competent. Number one, Lamar Stevens is on that roster. I don't know if he's going to make the actual roster, but that's a guy that if he's on the roster, if he could shoot, that guy would be like a $10 million NBA player. Mm-hmm. He's tough. JB loves that guy. If he's on the roster, and I suspect he will be if JB gets his way. He's going to like find a way to win them one random game, and it's going to be like, oh shit, Lamar Stevens just won a random game in December. But like Harris and Hardaway and Beasley as like veterans are not all-stars. You're probably particularly Tobias, like you're probably just overpaying, but it's like those are at least guys who are what you're getting. And around Cade, around Ivy, around Duren, around Thompson, like that's kind of something I like having for a younger team.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot to work with there, and I think we have rooting interest in a lot of these players getting better. I think the point you made about Cade is a great one. I like the Hornets. I like the Pistons a little bit more here in terms of just, okay, every single night, who am I going to watch? Should we just do it? Should we just do the Pistons?
I think we're doing the Detroit Pistons. And for people that are new to the show, what this means we're going to do is every week, every 2 weeks maybe, depending on what's going on in the league, we're going to give you a take on what's going on with the Pistons. Wes and I are committing wholeheartedly to watching a lot of Detroit Pistons basketball this year is what's happening.
Oh, when we put it like that. No, that's the team. That's the team I want to do. Yeah. And you know what? That makes me really. I'm glad we didn't choose the Raptors or the Hawks because I have zero interest in watching those
if
teams
you would have suggested the Hawks, Wes, I was going to log off this link.
No. I'm sorry to the Wizards. We didn't even mention you, but also not sorry. Should we go to the Western Conference?
Yeah, let's go to the Western Conference.
All right. So here are the 5 teams that are nominated, that are in our nomination pool, I should say, because they have plus odds to make the playoffs. The Lakers, the Clippers, the Spurs, the Jazz, and the Blazers. And I'm going to propose something to you right away.
Okay.
Or no, you had a proposal.
Yeah, I don't
Hit me
I
with it.
think I think picking the Spurs is cheating.
Yes, I agree. That was my thing.
Okay,
Too much
I
hype.
think look,
We're going to talk about them anyway.
we're gonna talk about Wembanyama anyway. We're gonna love Chris Paul throwing lobs to him. We're gonna everyone and their mother is gonna adore the Spurs. That is just like hopping on the biggest bandwagon in the league.
And it's not disrespectful to the Spurs. It's actually a compliment that even though you have plus odds to make the playoffs, we think you're too interesting to for the spirit of what this is. Because we're going to be talking about Wemby. He's going to have a quadruple, whatever, 5x5, and we're just be like, oh my God, that was amazing, and that'll just be several episodes this season.
I will say because we're knocking one team out just on their face, and technically I think we're out on the Lakers on this as well. Can I throw a team in that you didn't say has plus odds, but I think A, I'm surprised they don't have plus odds, and B, I think is a good candidate for what we're going to talk about here?
The Rockets?
The Houston Rockets.
All right, that's fine. I think that's a good add-on.
I love Sengun. I think that is the guy on that team. I'm curious to see what they look like bringing him back after they found some kind of identity playing small ball without him last year. This is a massive Jalen Green year for what he's going to be in his contract and his future in Houston. Reed Shepard's getting a lot of hype. They still have a lot of veterans. Udoka is in there to kind of drive wind and drive defense. Like, I think this is a team that could be an aggressive, out of nowhere trade team at some point this year as well. Like, there is potentially no more unsettled, but like in a good way team than Houston with how much talent and roster spots they have a lot at the guys that are interesting and how ambitious they seem to want to be. So I think Houston's like a good candidate for what we're getting at here. That's my first nomination.
Okay. I like the nomination a lot. I want to throw a couple other nominations at you before we circle back to the Rockets. Yeah. Are we underselling the Clippers? Has James Harden gotten underrated? Are we wrong to not trust Kawhi? I can't do this. Never mind. I can't do this.
No.
Sorry.
Okay, but
I couldn't do it.
Okay, but just think if you're making a positive case.
I don't want to. I can't root for this team.
Can I do it? Just like I don't really want to do this either. I was not going to suggest picking them, but it's like they have Harden. They have, to me, the second best coach in the league. My favorite coach in terms of in-game adjustments in Ty Lue. They still have a bunch of veterans, Zubac, and like they have Terrence Mann, and they have
Norm Powell. They got a bunch
Powell.
of guys that
they have they have like good players, and James Harden, and historically that is at least like a baseline level of competency, particularly with a good coach. And Kawhi might, Kawhi, if he plays, like they're probably better than expected if Kawhi plays, but like he's already out for the whole preseason, so like Lord knows what's going on.
So let's do this. We're making the positive case for the Clippers. Might as well. All right. They lost Paul George, and this was a team built around Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and James Harden last year. So they lose Paul George, and they don't replace him with a like for like, right? They use that space. They added Derek Jones Jr., Chris Dunn, Kevin Porter Jr. for some reason. That's what they do. Kai Jones, like that's what they do. All right, whatever. But like even before they traded for the third star in Harden, they were a team built around two stars with Kawhi and Paul George, and everybody was picking them to make the finals for like 3 straight years. So then they go to 3 stars, and okay, they looked pretty good for that January-February stretch, and then everybody gets hurt and everything goes to hell for them. And then they lose one of those stars, and now they're back to 2 stars. And there's no question that Kawhi and Paul George are dominant and can be fierce on the defensive end of the floor. But I also don't think it's a question that Kawhi and James Harden are a much better fit on the offensive end of the floor. And the one concern with Kawhi and Paul George, really, frankly, the only concern was always availability with them, right? If they were healthy forever, they probably would have won a championship in this window at some point. But they couldn't be. James Harden, say what you will about him, the guy plays. The guy plays almost every night, and he does give you pretty decent effort, even if he doesn't totally give you the best performances all the time. So, at least in the playoffs, but in the regular season, he certainly does. So, yeah, this is still a team built around 2 stars that is arguably deeper than they were like a couple years ago when it was only Paul George and Kawhi without James Harden. You've got Harden, Norm Powell, Terrence Mann, Kawhi, Zubac. That's a good starting 5. Off the bench, you've got Chris Dunn, Amir Coffey, who they like a lot, Derek Jones Jr., who was awesome for the Mavericks last year, and when you need defense, can step in and guard other wings. So you're not losing necessarily. Like, he's not Paul George, but he's not that far from Paul George defensively. It's the offensive thing is the big difference there. You still have Nick Batum there who came back. I like that for them. And then you've got some other like swing guys like Kevin Porter Jr., Bones Highland, Mo Bamba, Kai Jones. Like if you get one of those guys to pop, that changes the trajectory for them in a pretty significant way in terms of generating more offense when Harden is off the floor and when Kawhi is missing time. So to me, the biggest question is, well, Kawhi is already out. He's ruled out for the preseason.
Doubtful
We don't know
for
what's
the
going on with this right knee.
Yeah, doubtful for the season opener, which probably means he's not playing.
Doubtful for the season. We could just end the sentence there.
Yeah,
just doubtful
sure.
for the
Yeah,
season.
could've
I'm not saying
ended, yeah.
We have no idea. Every night he's going to be doubtful. And obviously the Clippers wanted to pull the plug on at least half of this by letting Paul George walk. So, yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with them is Kawhi's availability. But if he's out there, that's a good basketball team.
The other thing that I've forgotten until I was doing some research for the show and thinking about the Clippers is that Jeff Van Gundy's on the staff. We did already get a Jeff Van Gundy is transforming the Clippers defense story.
Okay.
So there's that.
That's fun.
Is their defense going to be good? I don't know. I thought that was interesting that was like a...
He did it in the 90s.
Defense.
So...
So that's where we're with the Clippers. I don't really believe any of the optimistic cases with the Clippers. History does not suggest
I kind of talked myself into it a little bit, but I won't let myself trust the Clippers.
We did that with the Pistons
one rule
already.
Not breaking. Yeah.
Look, we also like did it already with the Pistons. Like we kind of can't do it with like both and really like reverse course and talk ourselves into something. I think we got to like chill just a little bit, be a little more rational on this side.
I'm going to eliminate two teams.
Okay.
And you can disagree with me, but I don't want them nominated.
Okay.
The Jazz and the Blazers.
Yeah, look, I'm probably more interested in the Jazz than you, but it's not. I think they're going to be good. It's just I'm really intrigued by what they're trying to do there.
Yeah, if I could just get if I could watch Danny Ainge take phone calls all year, then I'd be in on the Utah Jazz. But
sure.
This has gotten to the point now where everybody gets the joke and it's not funny. And you could hit me with Will Hardy's an awesome coach and all this. Like the guy's never won more than 35 games. I don't care how good your coach is. You're not a good basketball team, and nobody's staring at the head coach when the basketball game is happening. And you could draw up whatever crazy great ATO you want. It's not enough for me to want to tune in and cheer for you. So the Jazz are frustrating. There's guys that I like on that team. Like I like Walker Kessler. I like Keyshawn George. I like Larry Markkinen, obviously. There's guys I like. I'm not as high on Cody Williams as I thought a lot of people in the draft were, but obviously they were.
Wes, I saw someone do a on-off defensive.
Kind of
I like Colin Sexton. I always will. I did see someone do an on-off defensive rating for Walker Kessler in a preseason game, and I immediately turned off my phone.
And here's the problem with the Jazz, and this is why I say they've been doing it for too long. The vibes are bad. It's bad vibes, man. It's just like you were watching this game, and everybody on the court knows that they could be traded, except for Larry Markkinen, who signed this contract, which basically prohibits him from getting traded this year. You can like as many of those players as you want. You can like the head coach. You can be in on Danny Ainge doing the slow build type of rebuild thing or whatever, his asset management. But it's bad vibes, and I don't want to watch it.
Yeah. All right, so we're out on the Jazz and the Blazers. I don't think we'd even need to get into it.
Nope. They're eliminated. So that leaves the Spurs, who we eliminated them because they already have enough hype, and the Lakers, who we are going to talk about anyway. So it's sort of similar to the Spurs.
Yeah.
So we're
going to talk about
Clippers
LeBron and Anthony Davis. It's the It has to be the Rockets. It just does. We can't do the Clippers. I think the Rockets are the pick here. There's so much intrigue. There's so much potential, just uncertainty there. And like, if I looked at Houston and let me think of it this way. If you look at the West, and you told me there was a team that just figured it out this year and overperformed and their young guys led to something, Houston would be the team that I would look at. Houston would be the team that, with all the young guys they have, like there's a real good chance I think multiple of those guys pop in some way, and Sengun's pretty good. And I think like there's just like a natural upward trajectory in there somewhere to be found. The question is, will they find it, and what's the identity ultimately going to be? But I think there's just like a lot of upside with that Houston team.
So when you just talk about players that you love to watch, the Rockets are number one on whatever power ranking list that is, right? Like it's Reed Shepard, Amen Thompson, Albert Sengun. I'm still kind of a Jabari Smith guy. I root for him. Tari Eason's coming back this year. Cam Whitmore is going to be a stud. Aaron Holiday, just kidding. But they've got like a lot of guys who you just love to watch and root for, and guys who are all sort of ostensibly getting better. And I also like they made that really great run last year, and I think they're capable of making those kinds of runs. And it was weird because Sengun was out, and they played Smith at center, and then they put Thompson at power forward, and everything sort of unlocked. And then Jalen Green was getting to the basket, and all those things. And everybody's like, "Oh, well, now how do you do that?" And it's like, pretty easy. When Sengun goes out, you just go back to that lineup, and you just leave Jalen Green in there. Like I don't know why this is so complicated for everybody. Like, oh, they got to trade Sengun or Jalen Green now because it worked this way and it didn't work that way. No, when Alperen Sengun comes out, you start staggering him and Jalen Green, and then you get back to that super fun lineup. You put Jabari Smith at center, Amen Thompson, and then whoever else the other two are doesn't matter, and put Jalen Green in there and let them go to town. And then when Jalen Green comes out, you put Sengun there with a bunch of shooters that he could pass to, and then you let him go to town. So. And I think Reed Shepherd, by the way, is a great fit for that. And I can see Reed Shepherd and Alperen Sengun right away because those are the two guys with the most basketball feel outside of Fred VanVleet, like young guys with the most basketball feel on the roster. It just feels like they're going to click right away. Yeah, I think the Houston Rockets are the obvious choice here. There's too much I don't think they're going to be making the playoffs. I think we're a year too soon on the Rockets hype. I think that they didn't make the major offseason move. I don't see any of these guys bursting onto the scene into a top 2015 guy, which is what it feels like it would take. Like one of those guys has to drag this team into the play-in tournament. I think there's just too many good teams in the Western Conference, but I think they'll be right there, and I don't think they're going to be mathematically eliminated from making the play-in until the last couple of weeks of the season. And so for that reason, there's just a lot to root for this team for the whole year, basically.
Tillman Fertitta should be doing whatever lobbying money he can spend to get the Rockets on at least the short list of teams that should be trying to move east. He wouldn't ultimately be one of the teams that does move because they're in Texas, but he should be there's a lot more teams west of us. We're gonna put probably 2 teams west of us. Can we finagle this and instead of Minnesota, can we go to the east, please? Because one of these in the East they would be I don't know if I wouldn't have them ahead of your Indiana's or Cleveland's or anything like that, but I would have them as the 8th seed. In here it's they might be 11.
That's just life in the Western Conference. You're absolutely right. Although the obvious choice to move the team east has to be Minnesota because
it's Memphis and Minnesota. Those are the two.
Yeah, and we can get Anthony Edwards and Ja Morant battling for the Eastern Conference crown every year. That would be fun. And then you've got the international guys in the West, Jokic, Shea, those guys battling it out for the West.
Yeah. Also, just Minnesota in a conference and playing Cleveland and Milwaukee and Chicago a lot more in Indiana just feels geographically correct.
Yeah, and I just need Anthony Edwards in the Eastern time zone. I don't need Anthony Edwards at 10:30 at night. I like myself some late night Ant, but it would be much better at a normal time of the day.
Yeah. Also, going to bed at a normal time when you can watch Anthony Edwards at a normal time is wonderful stuff. As we're both in our 30s, it's sleep's important. The more you learn about it. So Wes, we've ended up with the Pistons and the Houston Rockets.
I love it.
Yeah.
This is fun. And look, what's the common thread here? We are all in on the Thompson twins.
Yeah, that's right.
All in on the Thompson twins here.
As a twin myself, this feels right.
You know you're a twin.
Yeah, I'm a twin.
Oh.
Yeah. Fraternal. We're not nearly as good at basketball as the Thompson twins.
No. Don't sell yourself short.
No.
You're probably better shooters.
It's been a while. Also been bulk. Just when you lift a bunch, it gets tough. Mechanics, you get just too many bicep curls to shoot a good jump shot.
Tough problem to have. Humble brag.
Not strong as I want to be. Here's the thing about the gym: creates body dysmorphia. Anyway, I like these picks. Could have gone with Charlotte, and I would have been okay with that. I think Houston's the only team I would have been satisfied with in the West. Now that we really did it, we had the Kings before.
If you didn't put Houston in here, which you did not have to twist my arm to do that because I was feeling the same way about our Western Conference choices there. I was going to just say let's just do the Pistons and the Hornets and just call it. And who cares about conferences anyway? But no, I think ending up with the Pistons and Rockets are good choices. We've decided that we are rooting for them to hit their over on the over-under. And if they start making a case for the play-in tournament, that's even, that's cherry on top there. But, yeah. I'm going to bet it. I'm going to for real bet it.
All right, I will too. We'll do that.
I want stakes on this.
Yeah, we're both going to do this. I'm going to throw 2 units on both.
I'm going to text you a confirmation.
Yeah, I will as well.
All right.
BetMGM on BetM. Well, you can't in the state you live in do it at BetMGM. I believe.
You could do it for me, but that's illegal. So
We will not be
never do
committing.
that.
We will not be admitting to financial crimes here on the Just Basketball Show.
Won't be admitting to them.
No. But Pistons and the Houston Rockets. I like our picks, Wes. I really do.
I'm gonna get myself a Jaden Ivey jersey.
I think I'm going to make the drive to go see a
What does
Pistons
Homage
game
have?
this year. A lot of good Pistons. I believe they have. Do you get NBA Jam shirts? I wonder who their NBA Jam
I'm
persons
gonna look
are.
it up right now.
I do.
Maybe a off the air thing, but yeah, I'm gonna look it up right now.
I'm at Little Caesars Arena from Cleveland. I'm going to Google this right now and say how far of a drive I have. All right,
Ooh.
under 3 hours for me to go see the Pistons play. I'm going to have to go to a Pistons Cavs game.
They also
at
have
Little Caesars.
yeah, that's the thing. They have that Little Caesars thing, so that's worth the drive, I think, just by itself.
Are you in on Little Caesars as as pizza?
No, I am not. Good question. But I am in on the Detroit Pistons Arena Little Caesars. That is a great idea.
You're not the first person that has said. Apparently, it is like by far the best Little Caesars that exists in the universe.
It's not close. It's not. Yeah. It's not. It's Little Caesars in name only.
Okay.
So
that's good.
But it's not. It's a little bit further of a trip for me. But they did just open up a Detroit style pizza place nearby in downtown Miami. So I'll just walk over there and say that I watched the Pistons in person.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Cavs, Pistons. Let's see when I'm going to Detroit. I mean, it's going to be cold either way, but...
they have a Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey NBA Jam.
There you
jersey.
Go.
All right.
Pistons away on Friday, March 28th. I think I might be going to... I might be going to Detroit on March 28th, Wes. I think that's what we're looking like here.
I think you have to.
Take a half day off of work, drive to Detroit, spend a night up there.
We'll do a live show from there. Bring your recording equipment. We'll do a live show from the arena.
Yeah, I'm in.
All right,
I'm in. We're down. I'll buy some Pistons merch when I'm there. Probably. Actually, I'll have to get something.
Yep.
Maybe like a Ben Wallace bobblehead or something.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, I'll get something I can add to this because I got like I'll find like a Pistons something I can put on my wall. That'll be the move. And then
I'll find something I could put on the shelf.
Yeah, I'll find like a Rockets thing I can put up here too, just to really sell it. And then when we pick different teams in a year, we'll have to replace it. But that's content, baby. That's a tax write-off. But that's gonna be the Just Basketball Show for Friday, October 18th. Back next week. Season prediction time. The season's here. We'll talk to you then. Have a great weekend, everybody.